Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this is Outside My Window. And our guest today is Wade Cleveland. Wade is a counselor for the town of Yarmouth, chair of the Mariner Center Management Board and the town's Planning Advisory Board, and former chair of the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association and Communities in Bloom. He recently took on a new role at Ignite Atlantic as the Business Development and Events Coordinator. Welcome to the program.
It's great to be here.
So, first of all, simple question, maybe not a simple answer. What is Ignite and Ignite Labs?
You know, it's hilarious. A lot of people kind of are aware of the name Ignite, but I've gotten this question for the last 7 weeks straight. You're with Ignite? What's Ignite? Well, I'll tell you. Ignite is a building right now, but at its core, it is an incubator. And what we do is we have an area set up, and it's an incubator for startup businesses. We are all about entrepreneurship. We are all about rural innovation. And it's based on that, on rural innovation. So it's about making innovative moves, creating business, creating all of that within a rural atmosphere, if you will. And Ignite has grown fairly quickly. We started about 4 years ago at NSCC here in Yarmouth. It was founded by Doug Jones, who was a teacher at that time. And it has grown to the point where we moved a few years ago to our location now. And if you're a Yarmouth resident, a regular Yarmouth resident at the old C.J. O'Hanley building, and has grown past that so that we have also locations in New Glasgow, and we have a location that deals with industry in Halifax.
Now, I mean, you're focusing on rural, so it makes sense, New Glasgow, and Halifax being the hub, of course, that's where you make your connections. But are you partnered with a lot of different organizations and governmental agencies?
We are. We're really partnered with a lot of them. Everything from ACOA to the Nova Scotia government to there are different innovation hubs around. And so we're partnered with many of them. There's Volta, there's something called SEED, that's CEED, to other organizations. We're partnered with the Western REN, the Western Regional Enterprise Network, with NSCC, with Mara's Idea Hub, Grant Thornton, Digital Nova Scotia. The list goes on and on and on. We have a very large group of partners that we work with every day, really.
So do you facilitate entrepreneurs, or do you just make connections, put people in touch with other people? How does that work?
Oh my goodness, we do so much that it would take me an hour to go through everything. What we have 4 pillars. They're youth, communities, entrepreneurs, and industries. And you can imagine when you think about that, those pillars, there's a lot to that. So again, at our core, we're an incubator, but we're so much more than that. We provide mentorship. We do an enormous amount of networking and connecting so that we can kind of encourage innovation. When we see a need, we try to supply it as much as we possibly can. As in my job title, there's business development. There's also events coordination, and we do different events that both are industry facing and general public facing and entrepreneur facing. So we're offering programs for entrepreneurs. We're helping industries. We're making a lot of noise, or trying to, as much as we possibly can, in the public, so that they're aware of the success stories that we're having. There's an enormous amount of it. And when you talk about networking, it's interesting, because I'll tell you a story. If you may remember a few years ago when plastic bags were banned all across Nova Scotia, and indeed most of Atlantic Canada, I believe probably all of Atlantic Canada at this point. As a matter of fact, I have a small collection of Sobeys bags that someday I'm going to put on eBay and make a fortune on. The joke was always made at that time that, when it comes right down to it, we're not allowed to use those plastic bags in groceries because they're bad. So we go shopping and we pick up our meat, which is wrapped in saran wrap or whatever, and with styrofoam, and then we buy something else with plastic packaging, and we buy something else with plastic packaging, and then we get to the checkout, and of course we have to use a different bag because those plastic grocery bags are bad. So you take that concept, and the conversation actually did come up between Doug, who has an enormous amount of network, and someone from the Sobeys group. And that person mentioned the fact that, when it comes right down to it, we use twice as much styrofoam. It's a bigger problem than those plastic bags ever were. And so through that conversation, we created something called the Sobeys Plastic Waste Challenge. So we teamed up with Sobeys, us, Divert Nova Scotia, ACOA, the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, and we put this all together. And what the idea is, again, we encourage innovation. So it's literally a concept and a contest where anybody with great ideas on how to come up with packaging alternatives that don't include saran wrap and styrofoam, they'll win a prize, and they will be helped to start this up, start up an industry, start up some kind of a company that could produce this. So that's fine. It all comes together. We're hoping to get maybe 5 entries. As it turns out, we get 17 of them. And coming the end of this month, we've whittled it down, I believe, to the top 7 at this point. We've whittled it down to that point. Those 7 will be making their pitches and presenting to a group of experts and innovators, including, of course, members of the Sobeys grocery chain as it is, and somebody will win that. And so these are the kind of things that happen, and they happen a lot through Ignite. So you've got that plastic waste challenge. In the past, we've done things like a lobster bait challenge. When lobster bait was an issue, we did that last year. We have programs going on right now with automation in agriculture and automation in seafood. So there's all of that side of it, plus the smaller side of helping small startup entrepreneurs in rural Canada grow.
Are you connecting a lot of these entrepreneurs with talent as well? Like if hey, I'm a small business, I need a website, but I can't do that. Can you facilitate that kind of connection as well?
We do all of that. We link them up for those kind of situations. We help to link businesses together with whatever they may need. We have even associations with people like Dalhousie Law. So if they've come up with an idea and they need help when it comes to patents and creative laws and those kind of things, not creative laws, but
I know
they're
what you
making
meant.
up laws, but laws to protect whatever you've
Intellectual
created.
property.
Exactly. We do all of that. So making connections is another huge part of what we do.
That's interesting. So, in your new role as business development and events coordinator, what are your overall responsibilities in that? Because we were talking before we got online, and you had mentioned that this was a position that was created. So, what's the vision for what you're doing?
I'm trying to do a whole bunch of different things all at once. and that's a kind of typical Wade Cleveland fashion. I'm all over the place. But there are many key things. Business development, when it comes down to it, means kind of creating those relationships and networking so that when someone asks me, about, for example, you just mentioned about websites or whatever, that we can link up very, very quickly. So that's part of business development, linking them with the mentors that they need. So there's that. When it comes to event coordination, there's a lot more to that because we're trying to do more and more events, not just facing industry and entrepreneurs, but facing the public. So again, some of those are networking. Some of those are just open houses where we try to get a whole bunch of different companies and innovators in the room all talking with each other, because it's amazing what can come of that. There really is. But there's more to it even than that, because one of our pillars is youth. So we do a lot of work with youth and with STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. That's what STEM is. And so we're offering, for example, this summer, a couple of summer camps, one in association with Digital Nova Scotia, which is going to be literally a digital camp to help people, young kids between the ages of 9 and 14, learn things like how to code. And we'll teach them about robotics and different things like that. We're doing another one that I'm very excited about that I've been working on just in the last while. It's called the $100 Startup Challenge, and it is a summer camp. It's, again, for ages, I believe in this case, it's 8 to 14. And it's free. All of our camps, by the way, are free. In this instance, it's free. But the interesting thing is, what we do is we have 10 kids. We haven't even offered it yet. It'll be on where the parents can actually get their kids registered fairly soon, but it's not there yet. And what we're going to do is the first day is give each of those kids $100 and get them to come up with an idea for a business, be it sales. It could be as simple as a lemonade stand, or more complicated than that if they wish to. And through the successive days, we're going to teach them how to become an entrepreneur. So we'll teach them different parts of that. On the final day here in Yarmouth, we'll have sales going on at Alma Square. So we'll make lots of noise about it. We'll be very public about it and attract attention. And those kids can sell their wares on that day. That's through the morning. At the end of the day, we teach them how to do ROIs, return on investment, and that kind of thing. And we'll offer prizes. And it's really kind of an exciting thing to teach kids how to do this. On top of that, because we have two locations, we have one in Yarmouth and one in New Glasgow, we're going to create it almost as a bet between our two mayors. So our two mayors will be speaking, Mayor Pam Mood here in Yarmouth, and the mayor of New Glasgow, Nancy Dix, in there. They'll be speaking to the kids, and there's kind of an informal, very easygoing, of course, bet as to which group does better, and kind of a growing up of both groups. We'll be able to connect those two groups through the wonders of technology with owls and that kind of thing, so that the two groups will be connected pretty much every day, at least for an amount of time. So all those 10 kids in both locations get to meet kids from the other locations. They get to get those ideas together, and they get to learn about entrepreneurship. So it's everything from youth to doing what I spoke of before, doing all of that work. When there are issues, perhaps with industry, as I mentioned, when it comes to the plastic waste challenge or other things, we try to approach that with innovation and try to create situations where innovators can come up with solutions and then put everybody together.
Wade, as you know, rural entrepreneurs deal with a number of hurdles, including, bureaucratic red tape, regulations. There's new regulations coming all the time, so there's legal issues there. How can Ignite help, clients with those issues?
Again, it's all through our ability to kind of link the two sides together. So we deal on a daily basis with the different levels of government and government organizations, and so kind of putting everybody together and trying to work our way through whatever issues anyone may have is kind of our modus operandi. That's how we do it. And so when anything comes up, we deal with it at that moment by having this large amount of groups that we're associated with that we can, use and use as resources.
Is Ignite funded through government or private sector?
It's a nonprofit. There a lot of our funding comes through COA. We also have MOUs or memorandums of understanding with certain companies as well, industries that help fund what we do. But primarily, it's a government funded.
So, how do you gauge success? Is it done on a case by case basis, or do you have, a little bit more broader KPIs that you're operating off of?
It kind of works both ways as far as it goes. We Whatever we do, we try very hard to be able to quantify it in a measurable way. But every situation is a little bit different when it comes to being able to measure. What are we measuring? But we work very hard to come up with a system where whatever we may be working on, we can measure and quantify our goals, and kind of aim towards that and achieve things that way, and obviously have those measurable goals.
Now, at one point, I think you guys were offering or facilitating shared space and that sort of thing. Is that still going on too?
Yes. So again, as an incubator, we have shared spaces through both locations in Yarmouth and New Glasgow. And so, if you are an entrepreneur and you want to take advantage of that, what you basically do is come in and talk to us. And so there are companies who grow within the auspices of Ignite. And so you come, you get your desk, you get a desk, and for a pretty low fee, you get 24/7 access to the building, to all the resources that we have, to the mentorship, but also to the fact that we have boardrooms, we have a meeting space, we have smaller spaces, we have audio suites, we have an audio studio, we have high-end equipment that can be used, that kind of thing, and it gives it's kind of interesting. I'm interrupting myself here as I talk, but it gives you, of course, an address. It gives you a place that you can work quietly away from home. It also gives you the opportunity to work in and amongst the group, not just of us, the Ignite people, the people who work at Ignite, but those entrepreneurs. And again, that networking is invaluable. I had someone say to me a couple of weeks ago who had just come in and set themselves up, their business, and I won't say what it is, but he said, I feel re-energized here because you kind of feed on the energy of everyone else. It gives them the opportunity to brainstorm among themselves. It's an amazing thing to watch and to be a part of. It's really kind of exciting.
So, about half of your existence has been under COVID. And so, what has that really done for Ignite, and how have you managed to pivot through that and still come out as, a success?
It's always a hard one. And COVID was tough, as everyone knows. COVID's tough on everybody. Before COVID hit, Ignite was completely full. We had a lot of businesses there. Of course, COVID hit. It became necessary to kind of close down the general spacing because of COVID, through some of it at least. And a lot of those businesses kind of moved on. We didn't lose the businesses as far as it goes. They just kind of relocated at home or did their thing there. The events part of it was done that way as well. Of course, we've done tons of virtual events. They're not as much fun. Meetings are not as much fun. But we have proven that it can be done. And so now that kind of COVID, those regulations have eased up, things are brightening up again. People are excited to be with each other again. Ignite is filling up again with businesses. And those events that we were doing now have become more hybrid, which is wonderful. It also, it almost feels awful to say one good thing from COVID, because there wasn't much, and COVID wasn't that way. But one good thing that COVID did prove to people is A, you can work at home, B, you can work in a rural environment, and you can work in that rural environment for big companies. Everybody can work together virtually. And so events now, we can do events that are province wide because we can link Halifax with Yarmouth, with New Glasgow. We've done some work with all three and then thrown in Seed, which is based out of Sydney at the same time. And all of a sudden you have an event that's a combination of live and virtual that spans the province. So we've proven that. And as a group whose main goal is to encourage rural innovation, we've proven that you can do anything you want anywhere you want. So in a way, it's been advantageous to us because we've proven it can be done.
How are we doing on the rural internet initiative? Because certainly, because of COVID and we've been pushed to work from home, the only way that works is with strong internet backbone. And, that's always been a challenge in rural Nova Scotia.
No question about it. And to be honest with you, I have to take my Ignite hat off and put my municipal government hat on in order to kind of answer that. And I'm not involved because I'm a town councillor as opposed to a municipal one, so I'm not involved in it as much as others are. But the progress is being made. We've been advocating, both Ignite and, of course, the rural governments have been advocating for this to be done because it's desperately important for rural areas to be able to do that. And so it's being done and progress is being made, but there's no question that it's certainly an issue and hopefully one that will be resolved soon enough. But it's taking some money, as you can see, and as we're watching, I've been kind of paying attention to this issue, and a little bit at a time, we're getting better internet, but it's slow going.
And the reason I bring that up, of course, is that, we keep waiting for the next big industry to come our way, whether, it replaces what was the cotton mill or what, but it doesn't matter because now it could be a virtual business that comes into the area that's big business as opposed to a physical setup. But that's not going to happen if we don't have the backbone to suit it.
No question about it. And it brings me to something. It's something that I wanted to mention, actually, when we first talked about this. And you mentioned the cotton mill shutting down. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, of course, because we're all of that age. I remember the despair felt when the cotton mill shut down. And, that hurt the entire area. It was a horrible thing. And just after that, Phil Mooney became mayor. And for a period of time, of course, there was talk of the cotton mill being an incubator. Now, it didn't turn out the way that they had hoped by any means. We're very fortunate to have something like Ignite right now. But at that time, when he was putting the incubator together, he said something to the effect, and I am paraphrasing here, but he said, I'd rather see 10 businesses employing 30 people than one business employing 300. And you know what? That has stuck with me. And as much as it's always wonderful to have, the Dominion Textiles, the Michelins, those kind of things. These days, on a grander scale, it's the Googles and the Amazons and the IBMs, and those are great. They're important. But one thing, and it's the wonderful thing about Ignite, because we deal not just with industry, but with those entrepreneurs. And to watch an entrepreneur, to help that entrepreneur with a seed of an idea develop into something larger. Doesn't have to be gigantic. It just has to be large enough to sustain itself. And to have a bunch of those happening all the time through places like what we do here at Ignite, that's how you create vibrant communities, because those people who are small entrepreneurs, they're in your town, they're in your rural areas, so the money they make is going back into those areas. They're living here, they're supporting the local ball teams or the hockey teams, they're part of a community, And that's what I love about this place so much. Ignite is kind of, if you will, if you'll pardon the pun, kind of lighting that fire, and it's very exciting again.
But that's also, drives home the point of, support local, support local. Granted, yeah, maybe I can go on Amazon or Costco or whatever and find something marginally cheaper than I can get it somewhere else. But boy, I'll tell you, if you don't support local, it's not going to be there that long.
That's absolutely true. No question about it. And through our partnerships with people like the chambers, the Chamber of Commerce here in Yarmouth and the one in New Glasgow and other areas, that's part of what we do, is to encourage people to, you know, do that support rural, support your small town, support where you live and whatever is happening locally.
Yeah, because Amazon's not going to sponsor your kids' hockey team.
Absolutely. And they're not putting money back into your economy either.
No, and I just want to drive home one quick point, and it is on what people consider to be the corporates, right? So the fast food outlets, without naming anybody, the fast food outlets and so on, they're locally owned and operated. They're a franchisee, but they're in your area. They're not. It's not corporately run. So you may think, oh, we're not going to go there. We're not going to. You should, because that's supporting everybody in your area. They're not employing people from outside the area. They're employing local people.
Absolutely. No question about it.
Wade, what programs and supports are available designed specifically for women?
We do some. What we're trying to do is work more and more with women in business, and so we have an actual whole program called She Means Business, and it's monthly events. It's designed and created by women for women. So that's something that is happening right now. And of course, we work with the Western Wren with that. We work with the women's organizations with that. Now, I don't have as much experience with that because there's a lady in our Ignite facility, Erin Nickerson, who is also the coordinator for startups, who deals with that. But there is that. There's young women in Ocean Tech. It's a program which is geared towards young women in grades 10 to 12. And there's mentorship and innovation and guest speakers and all of that as well. So there are some programs that are going on for that. We also work very hard to create relationships with BIPOC, people of color, and Indigenous. We're looking to encourage those to go into entrepreneurship, and we offer supports specific to them.
Are there underserved demographics that you're trying to target?
Oh, yeah, very much so. I feel that in itself, although everybody talks about youth, that there's a real hole in program delivery for youth. So we're trying to do more and more with that. And in all honesty, although our basic pillars again are youth, communities, entrepreneurs, and industries, as a guy who's getting on in age, ever so slightly anyway, I think that there needs to be, and that's another kind of, it's on my list to address, but I think that there needs to be some programs for those who are thinking about retiring from whatever they're doing and perhaps want to become entrepreneurs at a later age as well. And if you come in, we're there for you. But I think there needs to be more programming kind of geared towards that demographic as well.
Wade, for the entrepreneurship part of things, is there like a revenue threshold to this? Is there, should the business generate a certain level of revenue to be in order to, partner with Ignite, or is it really open to everybody?
Really, it's open to everyone. So anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, we're there for them. And in addition to that, it's just something that comes to mind. But not only do we offer, of course, those desks that I mentioned, that spot for you to have a business. Also, we kind of talked about the fact that there are people who are working and they're working maybe for a company away, we also offer something for them. So it's called co-working space. And so for a minimal price, it really is very minimal, we offer desks also to people who are coming in. Maybe they work for a large company somewhere else, and they can use that desk space and everything we offer as their office while they get their business done, whatever it might be. And it's funny, it came to mind. I never quite got there, but it came to mind when you mentioned the fact where you were asking questions in relation to the internet and rural internet, because we have a gentleman who's an engineer who comes almost every day and works out of our office, who is working for a bigger company doing engineering, working towards rural internet. So there's also that. So it's just another service that we offer.
Beyond reaching out and all the programs you have for entrepreneurs, there's also a community connection there and some supports and programs in a wide ranging manner. Can you talk about that, Wade?
Well, what we do, we have community partners, and the idea is that everything together, in the same way that, I don't know, there's the rainforests in the Amazon. It's an ecosystem. Business and communities and rural communities, they're very much an ecosystem as well. And so we work with those community partners to try to help build that ecosystem, if you will. Working with newcomers, for example, it's a project that I took on early on, just about a week into my employment with Ignite. Realized that there's issues because we have a real need for workers, and workers are coming in, but many of them are underemployed. They're qualified for something way beyond what they're doing, and so plus I don't know, they feel kind of away. So often, you'll have newcomers come in and work, and they work to earn money, send the money directly home, and then they go away or they move to a larger urban area. And, if that's what they intended to do, it's fine. But part of what we want to do as well, and something I'm working on again right now, is to make those newcomers feel more welcome, perhaps make it easier for them to become a part of our community. And that enriches not just their lives, it enriches the community as well. And so trying to encourage them to be involved in volunteerism, or trying to encourage them to get involved in recreation, whatever it may be, whatever forms those show up. So that's another part of what we do. And there's a lot that needs to be done, and it's just the right thing to do to create this ecosystem. It's all about vibrant communities.
Now, you had mentioned before that you were looking to start up a bit of a podcast as it relates to Ignite. Can you chat about that for a second?
Sure. I'm in pre-production right now. We
Ooh, it sounds so formal. Pre-production.
yeah, yeah. It actually kind of is, because I'm working with a group of producers out of Halifax called Pod Starter, who do other ones. Reese Waters actually is one of the people who did. What's the name of it? It's a British one called the name escapes me. But at any rate, they're very good. And what we're doing is we're trying to do it right. There's a difference between broadcasting. You say the word broadcasting, and it means talking to the general public, and narrowcasting. And so what we're trying to do is create this podcast. It's going to be called Ignited the podcast. We've gotten the trailers recorded. We have our logos and stuff in place, and now we're to the point where we're getting ready to start producing these. And I'm going to be hosting it. We're going to be talking with rural innovators. We're going to be telling those stories. We're going to address maybe if there are issues that come up when it comes to rural living rurally, and making yourself an entrepreneur. We'll address those. We're going to talk success stories. We're going to even do local music and that kind of thing. So it's going to be kind of all over the place, and it's going to be an awful lot of fun. So we're really looking forward to that. I'm going to be starting probably within the next 4 weeks or so, recording those episodes, and we'll release 2 or 3 in a group, and then probably release once a month moving forward. And it's going to be on all podcast platforms. So that's something to I'm kind of excited about, and hopefully we can make that a bit of a success.
Well, it's great that you're taking a formal approach. I mean, certainly, for something that's going to be supporting your professional activities, you want to have something that's done right, not, you know, back room like ours. But, when, when Gary and I started this, the idea was that we wanted to just kind of fill a gap that we saw in the local community media. And this was our way of being able to do that and give it back.
It's going to be that's fun too, and it's great. And what you do is great. We're hoping to really make a bit of a splash with this, and on an industry side. So we're doing it a little more carefully, but nothing against what you guys do, because it's fantastic and it helps bring the community together. So congratulations to the both of you.
Well, I wasn't fishing for a compliment, but thank you. Certainly, Gary and I have had a lot of fun keeping up with this, and you know what? I mean, there is that gap. Unfortunately, the local media scene isn't what it used to be, and I mean, Eastlink itself, as you know, I've done a lot of work with Eastlink over the years, but we haven't been able to get into the studio in 2.5 years. So, there's a definite lack of highlighting on what's going on in the communities as a whole.
Well, as I believe I probably said in the trailer to the Ignited podcast, there's a tendency in small town and rural areas, especially in a place like Nova Scotia, which is very low key, to kind of keep things quiet and not blow your own horn. And I want to be the guy playing the trumpet. It's time to make noise. It's time to let people know the success stories, perhaps inspire someone else to make their own success story and help those success stories along. So that's kind of the goal.
From an entrepreneurial standpoint, if I can get that word out there, right? Over the last 4 years, what are you seeing from your involvement? Well, not your specific involvement, but Ignite's involvement in the community. Has it been focused more on certain sectors than others, or has it been a real broad spectrum?
For the most part, it's been pretty broad. We get we're doing a lot of digital, or we aren't, but our businesses are doing a lot of digital. I mean, within the walls of Ignite, there's everything from, or have been, everything from media companies who do digital media and other things, to game development, digital game development, to innovation in food, which is larger, of course. A lot of what we talk about reflects back to the seafood industry and fishing industry, of course, because it is what drives everything here. And so there's been a lot of that. We're all over the place. Right now, we have in our cohort someone who does landscaping design. I mean, it is literally all over the place.
And that's a good thing.
Exactly. That's the idea, because the more that's out there and the more choice you have locally, the more vibrant communities become, because it draws people in, it creates a vibrant economy. It's win-wins all the way around.
So if people want to find out more about Ignite and Ignite Atlantic, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
We have our website, which is igniteatlantic.com. You can send me an email there with Wade, W-A-D-E, at igniteatlantic.com. If you'd like to drop in, I'd love to show you around, show you the place. I know that there have been plenty who have gone through the doors, but many who drive past the building or know the building is there haven't come in. So we'd love to have you there. We're over at, it's 206 Main Street, right across the road from, I suppose, the fisheries building. Yeah, feel free to drop in and say hello and get a tour and find out more about what we offer. We're here to help.
And you're on social media, of course, as well.
You can find us on social media, both Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. We're all there.
I'm always curious when I look at, you know, different websites, and I look at the Ignite Atlantic website and all these amazing, innovative programs, and I'm thinking somebody's got to come up with these, and somebody's got to keep their pulse on the business community and the community in general. So is there sort of a brain trust there? Is there a board or a group that gets together as kind of a think tank to come up with these programs and ultimately develop them into a working program for businesses?
We have a pretty amazing board. Yes, we do. Everybody from Jim Hanlon, who I believe just received accolades recently. He's the former CEO of Cove, to Chris Kroll from Accenture, Kelly Gaudette, Matthew Doucette, who's a local guy. He's not living here locally now. He's in, I believe, Truro, but he's the developer of Zona Games. And there's many more besides. At the head of all of this is Doug Jones, who is an innovator in his own right, and kind of is the guy who puts everything together and has kind of guided this whole thing as it grew. It's really quite amazing. So it's a great brain trust, and Doug is a pretty amazing guy as well.
Wade, we can't thank you enough, and I got to tell you, when you learn something new every day, it's a great day, and we've learned a lot today about Ignite Atlantic. It's very exciting, and thanks again, Wade.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Great to talk to you, and it's always fun to talk about this. I believe I've said the word exciting probably 5 or 6 times through this conversation, but it really is. It's an exciting place, and it's great to talk about, and it's great to see it growing and becoming something really significant.
I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this has been Outside My Window.